Welcome to our this morning's 9 o'clock session. Very important discussion concerning leading the energy to transformation. So it's something like a very abstract topic. Actually, it's not so abstract. No matter whether we talk about the climate change, the SOE's transformation, and also One Belt, One Road, it's closely related to our energy transformation. But also China is going supply side changes, transformation. I'm so honored to be the interviewer, to have invited from Chairman Shu Yinbiao, the state-grade corporation of China concerning China's transformation to clean energy. China's state-grade is the largest public utilities around the world. I'm so honored to chair this discussion. Since most of you are present, you know Chairman Shu. So in the worldwide arena, has demonstrated his appearance of China's enterprise and have a lot of discussions with international communities, and also explained and also introduced our China's power grid development as well as the international cooperation. So thank you for coming, Mr. Fu. 非常感谢。 The beginning will start with one topic, so I think most of our international friends are very interested. That is the topic of One Belt, One Road initiative. So we heard a lot about Belt and Road initiative, but we might have some questions. Does it mean that it's a game for China itself? So if the other people are just company Chinese people to play? I think Mr. Shu concerning power industry, so international cooperation is a very important part. So from the perspective of our state grid, how to understand Belt and Road initiative, and for our power grid and also the people, we can offer a lot of opportunities. Thank you for this question. That's true. Belt and Road initiative is proposed by our state president Xi Jinping. And last month, in Beijing, we held a summit of Belt and Road. At this Belt and Road summit in Beijing, a lot of important countries, chairmen and also key people attended this meeting. At this meeting, President Xi gave a very important speech and further explained the purpose and the concept of Belt and Road initiative. So it's quite common. So we have a joint discussion, joint construction, and sharing. Those are main keywords. This idea of Belt and Road has been widely recognized around the world. Just last week, so I went to Oxford University to make a presentation, and also with a lot of professors from Oxford University, we talk about our ideas of Belt and Road initiatives. They proactively to propose to work with our state grid concerning the infrastructure, the sharing, and the interconnection. We can use our clear and new energy to offer the power of the whole world. We can have a lot of collaboration opportunities for both Oxford professors and also celebrities of every country. We all talk about Belt and Road, like what we heard from the moderator. It was proposed by China, but it's not the only one thing for China alone. So we need a collaboration around the world and joint efforts of the whole world. Try to construct such a community of our joint faith around the world. So this is the globalization process. And also, we have some temporary difficulties around the world. This is a very important driver for our China state grade cooperation. So we proactively try to promote the initiative, and also have a lot of international businesses. Our overseas assets is around 56 billion US dollars. So our covers the energy and infrastructures around the world. We have very good operation of these overseas assets. So we gave a full leverage in terms of our fund, technology, talents, and management, and equipment. Those are 5 major advantages we can achieve going global. Since the Belt and Road Initiative for the future's cooperation direction will have an impact or not on the state grid. So what we understand, Belt and Road covers China, Europe, Central Asia, and part of Africa and South America. So in our overseas investment, there might be some changes in the direction of the future investment. So for the investment directions, of course, so we'll follow the philosophy of Belt and Road. Last week, we just acquired from Greece about 24% of their stakeholders of their Greek power. And we have the delivery ceremony of the stakes. So a lot of ministers from Greece. And also the Prime Minister had a discussion with our people. So they want to strengthen our technology cooperation. They try to set up a power internet in South Europe. And also in the, between Europe and Asia. We can connect together to develop a new technology, new energy, try to improve our current energy structure. In this process, our China's company can invest in other countries and get their stakes and equities. So how about your project, including environment protection and sustainable development standards and principles? Whether we can see some better and more readily accepted project. The reason we can go global, our state grid, we have our technology advantages and management advantages concerning environment protection. We have the modern transmission technology. It's super high voltage. Transmission covers a longer distance, large capacity, and low consumption cost, and a low occupation of land. Our super high voltage transmission we have exported to Brazil. Brazil is a country in the Amazon River. They have 2 power stations, Benavente. This is a hydropower station. So they have very rich resources. So they want to have a development of the hydropower and reduce the fossil energy usage and send it to New Poro and also a long-distance transmission. So if you use about 500 kilowatts, the traditional technology can not do that. Our super high voltage transmission from China, so they can be used along this project. So they can greatly develop the hydropower. So it's a renewable technology to replace the non-fossil energy. This is just a single case, or we have a series of projects. It's relating to it's a kind of environment-friendly technology. We have already 20 factories and 2 factories in Brazil. So in future, along with the development of solar power, especially Sahara desert, they have very rich solar power in Sahara, and they can meet the overall Europe, the power requirement. Use our super high voltage transmission. So this is something in your mind. Yes, we are considering now. So it can be realized. So how about the time frame? When you can achieve that? We have talked about energy transformation by 2050. The European countries, including China, in Asia. So we have about more than 50% of the renewable energy. So just imagine, especially the solar power. So in a certain country, they have such so much power from solar. Maybe you don't have enough land area. It's not big enough. So we cannot use all the land. So we have the solar panels in the Sahara desert. They have so much sun and solar power. So we can turn the waste to energy. So to be optimistic, maybe in the following 10 years, so we can achieve it. The desert of Sahara. So we already started a feasibility study of the project. How about tomorrow's headlines? I can imagine. So China's state grade of corporations, now is sparing for Sahara. And also, I mentioned just now, so whether we can play with others. So our country can go to Europe to acquire some of their companies or small companies, about 24% of their stakes. How about third parties? We can bring them together. So it's not whether we play well or not. Right now, we are quite actively seeking the third-party partners. So in the past, so development is closely related with the third party. Our two projects in Brazil, the first one, we work with Siemens from Germany. So we work together. So we have acquired from Portugal the biggest stakes. And also with Portugal, we work together for the R&D. In the Portuguese-speaking countries, we can work together. Now covers Italy. The Italian power grid, we have some stakes, maybe in southern Europe, and also the crossing Europe and China, and even with Russia, we work together. So we can do it together. So what kind of possibility working with Russia? So between China and Russia, we have the connection project of two grids. So in some former CIS countries, we can work together.
For example, China, Kazakhstan, and China-Russia. Russia also had this Eurasia economic corridor. And do you think these two projects could generate new form of cooperation? In the Eurasian economic corridor, we have a Eurasian alliance, and we are aligning our interests together. Okay, let's talk about new energy. China is undergoing its supply side structural reform, and for our international friends, probably sounds a little bit strange, but anyway, it's easy to understand. The purpose is to encourage consumption and look for a sustainable development and inclusive development. So the question is about the new energy. In China's pollution, how much is from the coal-fired power generation? That's a major issue. The state grid now has a lot of coal-fired power plants. So how are you going to deal with that problem? It's a question that you cannot avoid. It's a very important question. And China's energy mix is very different from the international ones. Its resources in China is basically coal is the basic resource, and we don't have much of natural gas and oil and hydropower, etc. And the coal-fired power generation has been playing a major role in the past many years. It once represents 90% of the total power generation 2 years ago, but since entering into the new century, since 2000, China is transforming its energy mix. But still, the proportion is very high, yes, indeed. But I can give you a number. By the end of 2016, China's renewable energy installation has reached 36% in terms of the proportion. And the power generation of the renewable power generation represents 25% of the total power generated. So previously, the coal-fired power represented 90, but now it's 67%, and which means 1/3 of the power is generated from the renewable energy and clean energy. So in such a big country in China, where the coal is the basic resource, and also the energy demand is growing. Against these backgrounds, we're different from the European countries. Their energy consumption demand is not increasing. So whatever is generated by new energy, they could replace the fuel power already. Yet China's total demand is growing. But in this process, we can still achieve the target of increasing the renewable energy to, as I mentioned, 25% from the total power generation. From the installation, it's 36%. We love these numbers, but yesterday, Premier Li Keqiang said that China is going to honor its commitment for the climate change. So you are under this task of achieving that target. How could you do that? China is a signatory member country of the Paris Agreement, and it's already a consensus. The Paris Agreement is a consensus of all the different member countries, even though there might be some noises. But as Premier Li Keqiang said, China is going to honor its commitment as the second largest economy, and we're also a leading company. So we take the very unique position in this transitional time period for the energy sector. And in 2016, the renewable energy represents 13.1% in terms of the total energy consumption. So the purpose of 15%, so at least we've already had 1% higher than our target. But there is a cost issue. Clean coal needs a new technology, and of course the cost of technology is gradually reducing. But still, there is impact over the overall cost of production. So how would you look at that cost impact? And the power tariff is also a very sensitive issue in China. If there is an increase of a power tariff, that's going to be a big thing. And the media and the society would have a lot of discussion over that. It's a very sensitive issue. So on one hand, we need to focus on the future target and change accordingly. Meanwhile, we need to take care of the environment. So Mr. Shu, how could you balance? Indeed, I'm under huge pressure, but I would like to tell our media friends and some experts, I would like to discuss with them about the power tariff in China. In general, the power tariff is lower than the international average. European countries price is around 1.5 to 2 RMB. But China is only 0.65 or 0.6 RMB. I'd have to ask my mom how much is it. But this year in Beijing, it's 0.48. But in general, it's 0.6 RMB. In U.S., the power tariff is 10% higher than that of China. Yes, indeed. The industrial power tariff is very low, is lower than in China. But that industrial power only represents less than 30%. In China, it's around 70% of the power is used for the industries. So we need to use the industry to compensate for the agricultural usage. But the power distribution and transmission in China, the cost for that is the lowest. Now the power tariff is 0.6 RMB, and we're doing this supply side reform. And so this year, for the power grade, we were going to go through reforms and transformations. So we're going to reduce the fees, reduce the prices. So there will be around 56 billion of reduction of revenue in order to reduce the burden for the businesses related to the energy consumption. What does that impact mean to your company? To us, first of all, we need to implement, and secondly, we probably will reduce the revenue of ours will be reduced, but we need to improve the internal efficiency and find other sources of revenue. Because if you reduce the industrial power tariff, then the businesses would develop. I could imagine every Monday morning what kind of meeting you are having with your colleagues. There is another topic which is also very important, which is related to China's power reform. Speaking of the China's reform, a few years ago, President Xi Jinping specifically pointed out the strategy of development reform and poverty alleviation. Reform is still the priority. Power sector's reform and SOE's reform, they are jointly related. And from the reforms perspective, Mr. Shu, I know that you have some thoughts over that, but I would like to hear the details. What kind of plan does your company has? About the reform sector's reform, yes, indeed, that's a priority of the Chinese government, and specific documents from the central government have been issued. The purpose and the principle of our reform in the power sector is to establish a market-oriented mechanism, to establish a level playing field and open and transparent market-oriented system. The power sector or the power grid will be well managed, and the revenue would be audited based on the cost. And from the supply side, freedom would be offered from the so there will be a market platform, because right now we have excessive power, so you could compete to connect to the grid, and then the power online or the users could choose the price by themselves, because the power generators could compete to get connected to the grid based on their cost. This year, about 28 trading centers have already been established for the power generation, and of course, it's under state power. And in a south grid power grid, they also have their own trading centers. So on that trading center platform, we could conduct a level playing competition in order to reduce the power tariff, and great achievements have been made. So that's one of the major impacts. And also supply side reform and reduction of fees, etc. Those are also the results. And secondly is SOE reform. And state grid is one of the oldest SOEs. It is number 2 of the top 500. And we have 1.6 million employees serving 1 billion of population. So internally, we need to improve our efficiency and transform and upgrade in order to focus on the innovation, on technology. And we have already had several leading innovative technologies. For example, ultra-high voltage power transmission technology and distribution technology, EV, and we established the largest smart EV platform. On that EV platform, we can see all those infrastructure for the EVs. So we have 160,000 of charging facility, charging posts. So that supply very good services. But still, the EV users don't think it's convenient. I'm not sure whether you are driving a EV. If yes, then I can give you an app so that you can find the closest charging post. And if you have you have already established a charging post, then you can show on this app saying that you would like to share your charging post with others. So that is very helpful for the EV development, because the EV will know which charging post is of higher quality, and what battery is of high quality. All these could be reflected based on the big data. Okay, back to reform. You mentioned about 28 trading center platforms, which has already been completed, right? But people might ask, for such a competition, do you think this competition, how can we guarantee such a fair and a transparent of a market-oriented competition? And a state grid is the leading company in the top 500 companies, but also from private sectors. A lot of companies would like to get involved into the construction of a power and facilities and reform. And how would you look at all those new possibilities? To answer your first question related to whether the market is open and transparent and fair, and I think what you said is very good. The market platform is there, and the technical supporting system has already existed as well. And after 2 years of piloting, we've already had a mature market rule being drafted, and which is to be launched soon. With this market rules, then we can use the platform on a fair and transparent basis. Could you please tell us how the piloting are doing? Okay, with this platform, it is on the province basis. All the power generation units and power companies would like to offer their quoting prices on this platform. It's similar to that in European and other countries. For example, we would like to reduce our price to, for example, from a 0.35 to 0.25. And the user said, okay, I only would like to buy when the price is 0.22 RMB. So we will try to align the different interests of the two parties, sellers and buyers. So when there is a peak power generation, sometimes we will just get rid of it, and the price would be quoted as 0 or several cents. And if you get a 0, some subsidies will be given to you. So that is that was a bad practice. So do you think there will be a disorderly competition? For example, coal. People probably will use non-clean fuels in order to get more market share or more power to be distributed or sold. How could you manage? Do we have any good plan for that? What you said is very interesting. In the process of regulating the market, the clean energy and the coal-fired energy, first of all, we need to have a power grid, and secondly is rules and regulations to control it.
So it's 350 grams. The generator is a very low efficiency and reduce their power. It's 260 gram is a high efficient clean energy generator. Of course, you have to quote a low price. If a high efficiency, you quote a high price, so it will be in vain. So you cannot do it. So I'm so happy to have this opportunity to question Mr. Shu. I've already got a reminder, so time flies, so we're running out of time. So if you can talk about the physical and important contents. So before we leave here, so once again, I want to ask Mr. Shu, since we are talking about energy process, energy transformation, there are some critical timing points. The first one, so is our party congress will be held at the end of the year. And also, secondly, we have our commitment concerning the climate change accord. And also, we have SDG, Sustainable Development Goals from UN 2030. So those are the big targets. And also have our domestic 5-year plan, so that are all listed here. In terms of the state grade perspective, how do you achieve such a target? And how do you try to improve your state grade yourself? We'll have a real, fair, and also transparent platform. So the local enterprises, including our cooperation with international enterprises, can you give a sum up? So what you said is very important. We can achieve our target for sure. Our state grade has every responsible to achieve our target, to do ourselves better. For example, by 2020, our renewable energy power generation will be around 40%. By 2030, renewable energy installed generation power will be around 50%. So China will have around 1.6 billion and installed power, and every year grows 50%, and want to have a higher percentage of renewable energy. So just imagine, some countries cannot do that alone. And we have to make every effort for that target. Secondly, such a high percentage of renewable energy, so you know, it's a big challenge. It's quite difficult from our state grade perspective. It's a kind of energy revolution. or it's a power grid revolution. So at this Davos, we talk about the fourth industrial revolution. The power grid revolution is a very important component. We want to see security, new energy, and high efficient energy. According to our state president, the full revolution in the energy area. So we have such international cooperation, the strategies. We want to create moving from traditional power to the next generation power is a kind of a revolutionary change. In terms of the ideology, philosophy, it will be widely interconnected. So it's different from the past. Just several hundred power stations. Now it's hundreds of thousands, including the wind power and solar power. It's widely interconnected. We want to have a smart and interactive such a network. Otherwise, you cannot run such a large-scale power grid. Thirdly, it should be flexible and resilience. Flexibility and resilience. So it should be resilient and flexible. The fourth one, all those things, they have to assure the reliable and security of this power grid. Those are the 16 key Chinese words. We want to have a clear and high efficient and low carbon emission. In this process, science and technology innovation is the first priority. So we want to have a smarter power system. It's ultra high voltage transmission. Secondly, it's a larger scale, quite economic, and a large scale energy storage system. It relies on a lot of technology breakthroughs. Thank you so much, Mr. Shu. So you talked a lot about our China's ideas and changes in future, not only limited to China itself, and also we can work together around the world. Our today's talk, the one thing I want to taking this opportunity to give you some a piece of news. So our China State Grid Corporation last week, from the 17th to the 23rd in Qinghai province, we achieve 100% clean energy power supply in that Qinghai province. So this is a very important one. So in Portugal, they have about 4 days running the clean energy power supply. The second time in Qinghai province, for 7 days running, we achieve 100% of clean power supply. So congratulations. So we can see Mr. Shu is always ready to work together with partners around the world, and also in order to achieve our very macro objectives. So thank you so much. Thank you again, Mr. Shu, and thank you all for participation.